Berlin, January 1944. Hitler trusted one man to tell him where the Allies would land. That man may have helped send Hitler's army to the wrong beach. His name was Alexis von Roenne. Every morning, the same ritual. A colonel enters, places a report on the table, waits. Hitler reads, nods, the colonel leaves. For months, this was the most trusted intelligence relationship in the Third Reich. What Hitler didn't know, the numbers were wrong. Whether by failure or decision, the record does not show. But the strangest part was not that Hitler believed him. It was that the record still cannot prove whether he wanted Hitler to believe him. On October 12, 1944, von Roenne was hanged at Plötzensee prison, 4 months after D-Day, 3 months after the July 20th plot against Hitler's life. He took his reasons with him. The system never needed them. Alexis Freiherr von Roenne, born 1903, Prussian aristocracy, old family, old values. He was not a political soldier, he was a professional one. By the late 1930s, von Roenne headed Fremde Heere West, Foreign Armies West, the department responsible for evaluating every piece of intelligence about Britain and America. His predecessor, Ulrich Lys, described his analytical instinct as rare, the ability to read fragmentary, contradictory intelligence and extract what was real. In September 1939, when Soviet troops entered Poland, von Roenne told colleagues something quietly, with total certainty. Within 5 years, we will be at war with Russia. And then the West will have free hands, completes its air rearmament program, and destroys us. Nobody disputed it. By 1942, he had been wrong about nothing that mattered. Hitler noticed. Von Roenne became the Führer's preferred source on Western Allied intentions. When the morning briefing included an FHW assessment, Hitler read it first. Inside German military intelligence, this trust was the highest possible currency. The system had found its ideal instrument, a man of genuine ability operating inside a machine that had no mechanism to question him. What that machine did with that instrument, and what that instrument may have done to that machine, is where the story becomes impossible to close. Here is what intelligence analysis looked like inside the Third Reich by 1943. Analysts who confirmed Hitler's assumptions advanced. Analysts who contradicted them faced consequences. The institutional pressure moved in one direction only, toward telling the Führer what he already believed. This was not a written rule. It did not need to be. The system did not require analysts to lie. It required them not to contradict. That distinction between active deception and passive confirmation was the machine's core operating principle. It needed men who understood that certain assessments had only one acceptable conclusion. Men who understood what happened to analysts who delivered unwelcome findings. Von Roenne understood this better than anyone in the building. He also understood something the system could not account for. Von Roenne was a devout Christian. His faith was not background. It was the organizing principle of everything he believed. What he had witnessed since 1939, the SS operations in Poland, the racial legislation, the systematic elimination of institutions he had spent his life inside, had become incompatible with every principle he held. By 1943, colleagues later described a man who had changed. He maintained friendships with figures connected to what would become the July 20th plot. His conscience prevented direct participation in assassination. But the system itself offered something else, A confirmation machine requires confirmation. Von Roenne was positioned to provide it. Whether what followed was a decision or a collapse, the record does not say. But what followed changed the war. Spring 1944. The invasion was coming. Every German command meeting circled the same question. Where? Two candidates. The Pas de Calais, shortest channel crossing, heavily fortified, militarily obvious, or Normandy, longer approach, less expected. The Allies built a machine to ensure Germany chose wrong. Operation Fortitude created the Phantom Army, the first U.S. Army group, FUSAG, positioned in southeast England, directly across from Calais. Canvas tanks, fabricated radio traffic, double agents feeding manufactured reports. General George Patton placed in nominal command because German intelligence respected Patton more than almost any other Allied officer. The deception had vulnerabilities. A rigorous analyst should have found them. The double agent reports contained inconsistencies. The troop numbers strained plausibility. Cross-referencing aerial reconnaissance with agent intelligence should have raised flags. At that point, the assessment could still be challenged. It was not challenged. At that point, the picture could still be revised. It was not revised. Instead, according to post-war analysis drawing on declassified Allied records and German military archives, FHW reports under von Roenne's authority inflated Allied strength dramatically. In some accounts from roughly 44 divisions to nearly double that figure. Every phantom unit the Allies invented was accepted. Agent reports previously questioned were endorsed without revision. The picture delivered to Hitler was confident, precise, and complete. Normandy, if it happened, would be a diversion. The main invasion would come at Calais. June 6, 1944. Allied forces land on the Normandy beaches. For the first hours, the window was still open. Germany had panzer divisions capable of reaching the beaches, capable of driving the invasion back into the sea. The beach defenses were taking casualties, but the beachhead was not yet secured. Military historians have documented the critical interval, roughly 24 to 48 hours in which rapid armored response could have altered what followed. Hitler waited for the real invasion. The Panzer reserves stayed near Calais, waiting for FUSAG, waiting for the army that existed only in assessments produced in a building in Zossen, south of Berlin. After 48 hours, the window closed. It did not reopen. 19 German divisions, approximately 150,000 men, spent the decisive days of the Western War positioned against an invasion that never came. By the time the strategic error became undeniable, the Normandy beachhead was established, reinforced, and permanent. The confirmation machine had confirmed the wrong thing at the worst possible moment. This was not unique to one man. It was how the system worked. Did von Roenne know what he was doing? Two interpretations exist, both documented, neither proven. The first, he was deceived. Operation Fortitude was extraordinary. Double agent Juan Pujol Garcia, known as Garbo, trusted enough by German intelligence to receive the Iron Cross, fed disinformation through channels von Roenne had reason to accept. The Phantom Army was supported by carefully managed reconnaissance access. The deception was designed specifically to defeat analysts of von Roenne's caliber. By this reading, a genuinely skilled analyst was consumed by a deception that exploited the very rigor he was known for. The second, historian Ben McIntyre, in his 2010 work on Operation Mincemeat, raised the possibility that von Roenne did not believe the deception. If that interpretation holds, a man who had previously dismissed these same double agents as unreliable, who had access to aerial reconnaissance contradicting the agent reports, did not make simple errors. The record does not show whether what followed was failure or decision. Both produced the same result. The assessment reached Hitler, the reserves stayed in Calais, the window in Normandy closed. A system built to confirm had confirmed the wrong thing. Whether the analyst at its center was its victim or its instrument, the machine produced an identical outcome either way. It was not built to find the truth. It was built to confirm it. And the part that cannot be closed, 80 years later, with access to both sides of the intelligence record, historians still cannot say which man von Roenne was. The analyst who failed, or the analyst who didn't want to succeed. July 20th, 1944. The bomb detonated. Hitler survived. The Gestapo moved within hours. Von Roenne had not participated in the assassination attempt, but he knew the men who had maintained those friendships, had not reported them. Arrested, initially released, rearrested August 9th. October 5th, 1944, People's Court. Roland Freisler presiding. Von Roenne offered no tactical defense. He told the court directly, the racial policies of the Nazi state were incompatible with his Christian values. Freisler sentenced him to death. October 12, 1944, Plötzensee prison. Von Roenne was 41 years old. He left a wife, 2 daughters, aged 7 and 18 months. He said nothing about D-Day, nothing about Fusag, nothing about the assessments that reached Hitler's desk each morning. The one man who could have answered the question ran out of time to answer it. The system that had required his silence and his voice was done with him. 1944. Von Roenne hanged. The war in the West accelerating toward German collapse. The divisions that waited at Calais never reinforced Normandy in time. The window that closed on June 7th never reopened. Inside German intelligence, the errors in the FHW assessments were noted. The question of how they occurred was not pursued. No one asked why. 1959. Ulrich Liss published his memoirs. He described von Roenne as a man of extraordinary analytical ability, precise, reliable, rarely wrong before 1943. He noted the assessments. He did not raise the question of deliberate sabotage. The internal understanding of what had happened at FHW remained incomplete. No one asked why. 2010. Ben McIntyre published Operation Mincemeat. The possibility of deliberate sabotage reached a public audience for the first time. Historians began returning to the German archives at Freiburg, to the declassified Allied records, to the FHW reports themselves. 66 years after the execution, the right question was finally being asked. The answer was still not there. Von Roenne's story is not the story of one man's decision. It is the story of what a confirmation machine produces when it operates without friction. The structure was simple. Analysts who confirmed advanced. Analysts who contradicted disappeared. The system did not need dishonest men. It needed men who understood the cost of accuracy. Over time, it selected for exactly the kind of analyst who would not challenge a picture that confirmed what the system already believed. In that environment, the question of von Roenne's intent becomes, in one sense, secondary. Whether he looked at the fortitude deception and chose to amplify it, or whether he looked at it and genuinely could not see through it, the system was equally satisfied. The confirmation arrived. Hitler read it. The reserves stayed in position. The window closed in Normandy. A man of demonstrated ability, operating inside a machine with no mechanism for contradiction, produced an assessment that may have altered the outcome of the Western War. The system did not need him to lie. It needed him not to contradict. Whether he understood that and used it, or was destroyed by it, the machine registered no difference. It was not intelligence. It was confirmation. And at Normandy, confirmation was enough.